So good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Reverend Dr. Keith Cox. I'm the spiritual leader here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our beloved home here at 1200 North La Brea Avenue here on Sunday, July 1st, 2018. Right? Summer has begun in LA. We're done with June gloom and we're ready for some fireworks. Are you? Good. When I'm speaking of we, I'm talking about the multiple personalities in my head. So happy to have you all here this morning and share in the joy that is known as the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. We are a metaphysical new thought community that comes together every Sunday morning. And we welcome all facets and all aspects of life into our spiritual home here at 1200 North La Brea in the heart of West Hollywood, California. We share our space with Congregation Kol Ami, which is a progressive, reformed, predominantly gay and lesbian Jewish synagogue here. And it's really our honor and our privilege to be here and to spread love on this planet through both our philosophy and belief as well as theirs. Speaking of philosophy and belief, we're here where we practice the teachings of the science of mind predominantly, which is known in the modern world and in its modern incarnation as a philosophy of faith and a way of life. Our particular Metaphysical New Thought Community's vision statement is supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. I think if we lived our life using the lyrics from the song Imagine only as a mandate for ourselves, we would find that self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening because it speaks of the oneness of life itself, which is more of what I'll be speaking about today. If you're new here today, and I see some people that are new faces here today, welcome. Know that we don't honor you in a way other than honoring the divinity that's within you. We don't ask you to stand. We don't give you a rose or a carnation or ask you to sign anything. We just simply honor who you are and know that we welcome you to share in this collective experience for somewhere around 66 minutes and 3/4 on a Sunday morning, depending on what goes on. You may hear some language that you're a bit unfamiliar with when you come here, where it's a non-traditional Christian environment, but you will hear the word God oftentimes, which we believe is the one power that exists in and as each and every one of us. You will hear the term spiritual mind treatment, which is not about holding you down and doing something to your mind. It's about speaking in a way that honors the oneness that exists by means of all of us as mind, and affirming the realities of the power of the divine that exists among all of us equally. You will also hear us call in the light, which is the ritual that we're talking about and we're going to do in just a moment, which is about honoring that one power in the form of light that exists within all of us. In essence, what we do is we welcome everyone here and celebrate you. We welcome all races, all religions, all countries of origins, all sexual orientations, all genders, all ethnicities, all abilities of life. We indeed stand with you, and as our beloved founder, Dr. David Walker, used to say each and every Sunday morning, we welcome one and welcome all. So with no further ado on that, we will move into our ritual. The ritual that we do is the lighting of the candles. It's truly honoring and calling in the light that exists within each of you. It's facilitated by our practitioner of the day. Our practitioner today is the one and only Elizabeth Dadd. We're so happy to have her with us today from some of her travels around the world. I'd like to welcome her to the Bema. Our illuminator today that's going... Well, you hear her already. She's the most silent one that we have in our congregation, known as Sherry Bazanis, the ageless one. We welcome her to light the battery-operated candles, and our beloved Jonathan and Yaron will take you through, enjoy the lighting of the candles and calling the light. You're right there.
Please join me. Calling in the light. Calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love.
We perform this morning is called Calling in the Light. Today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all people and all faiths all sentient beings come from the one all-abiding presence, which we call Spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities we possess as complete expressions of the divine. So the first candle is lit for peace. In this way, we honor our inherent divine state of inner calm, regardless of any seeming chaos unfolding around or within us. The second candle is illuminated for the quality of power, the power we acknowledge as the energy by which everything exists. We light the third candle for the quality of beauty, a personal expression by which high spiritual qualities are made manifest. We light the fourth candle for the quality of joy, that state of being that is excited by the expectancy and experience of good. We light the fifth candle for light, the symbol of divine intelligence. The sixth candle is lit for all life, that which is defined as the animated spirit of being, that inner something that makes everything live. We light the seventh candle, the quality of love, defined as the self-givingness of spirit, the desire of life to express itself by giving of itself. We light the eighth candle for the quality of wisdom. The concept of unity is the mystical secret of the ages and the key to wisdom. And the final candle that we light is known as the healing candle. And I ask that you take a moment and think of someone you would like to silently put into the light of the healing flame to experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
Hi, sunshine.
Please repeat after me. I am love.
I am love.
I am peace.
I am peace.
In my heart.
In my heart.
I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together.
All together.
We are all.
We are all.
Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. Calling in the light of love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
As so it is, as we stand and bask in this light of love, knowing that there is but this one power of love, and that we are so grateful to be here right now in this moment. So grateful for the music that took us to that place of power. We recognize and affirm the power of one voice, that each of us has that voice of the divine to express at our highest level. And so we accept all the gifts of spirit, all the qualities of the divine as ours to embody and express. For we are peace. We are beauty. We are joy. We are light. We are life. We are love. We are wisdom. This is our true nature. This is who we are. And today we go forth and express ourselves in joy, in love, and in unity. We use the divine intelligence that has created us to imagine, to image, to bring into manifestation all that we are together. And so I release this treatment knowing that it is so. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you to each and every one of you. I could listen to Elizabeth's dad do spiritual mind treatment every single day. I don't know about you guys, but such brilliance. Thank you. I tell her I can remember when she became a practitioner at the Wilshire Theater and standing up on that stage giving the continuation. She's continued giving that type of brilliance and sharing it with us. I forgot to acknowledge everyone that's watching us online. So let's say hello to everybody online. Hello, everyone online. So you didn't say hello, Jonathan. Oh, hello. So we got a couple of texts that it wasn't working, but it was. So people need to update their Flash player. So I'm glad they did that. Just remember, update your Flash player, right, in life. So we've got some really special music for you today that we do every Sunday. We have amazing musicians that walk through the doors here, and I think we're so blessed to have that. So thank you to Yaron and Andy for participating in setting that up. And to have Jonathan Hawkins back here with us after his half-year world tour. We were talking earlier, he's been on the road pretty much all over. South Africa, you can tell them where all over, and left in December and just got back to LA. So it's been a real pleasure to have him back, spreading his light around the world. And so if you want to know more about him, you can follow him on social media. So it's great work.
Talk to me afterwards.
Or talk to him afterwards. You can tell that was an edit. Don't have them follow me on social media. As that was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, I follow him on social media. I'm not sure I should have said that. Anyway, no. Let's just say he has fun as he spreads his light, which is a good thing. We all should bring joy to the world, right? Right. So I'd like to welcome back Jonathan to share this beautiful song with you as an inspiration to remind you of what Elizabeth just was talking about, the oneness that we have within us and the freedom that we're here to celebrate today. Jonathan Hawkins and Yaron Spiewak.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk
Hawkins, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I did not lie to you, did I? Aren't we happy to have Jonathan in your own back? Yes. Happy, happy, happy. Well, happy pre-Independence Day, everyone. How are you feeling? Ready to eat some flour products with some white sugar on it, with some red, white, and blue icing on it, maybe some barbecue and some iced tea, and who knows, maybe a cold beer, right? You guys seem so excited. Okay. Sandy, that explains why no one signed up for the picnic. No, I was kidding. You'll hear more about the picnic later, which will be a continuation of Let Your Freedom Ring Through Food. So I'm happy to share with you today the message that I'm going to share with you regarding freedom. And the title of my message today is Set Yourself Free. I'm going to begin by reading something that's going to be quite lengthy, so please indulge me in that. But I think it's something that's worth us hearing, and it's a transcript of a talk that was given by Dr. Ernest Holmes on Sunday morning, July 4th, 1937. If you're new to our teaching and philosophy or being here this morning, Dr. Ernest Holmes was the founder of the philosophy of the science of mind that I was speaking of earlier. He, in the early 1900s, was late 1800s, but through the early 1900s, was considered a person that was on the forefront of the philosophy of New Thought, which is what we practice here, which is that there's an indwelling presence within each and every one of us, and that it's there whether we are aware of it or not, and yet through our awareness of it itself, that we have the ability to impact our lives through our thoughts and our beliefs and our actions. That impact shows up in our life because we live in a universe that's governed by spiritual law. So just like physical laws, gravity will be an example of that, there are spiritual laws that bring forth into our field of experience, life in other words, that which is a reflection of our state of mind. So here's what Dr. Holmes said on that particular day here in Los Angeles. Ever since the dawn of civilization, ever since the first humans began to grasp the significant fact that they were individual beings in a universe that seemed to be more or less hostile to them, the entire search of the human mind, its whole endeavor, has been to get free from evil, from bondage and the shackles of lack, want, fear, superstition, uncertainty, pain, disease, poverty, and fear of the hereafter. And because of this, human systems exist. Organized philosophies spring up, sciences develop, educational systems are conducted, collective security is sought after, and religions are formulated to allay the fear of the humankind relative to the soul. So take that in for a moment. That's the first paragraph of 39. No, I'm just kidding. But there is about 16. What I ask you in this moment is to take in for yourself, where in your life is there any want? Where do you live with bondage, any shackles of lack? Do you have fear or superstition? Is there any uncertainty, pain, disease, or poverty, or fear of the hereafter in your life? He goes on to write that the great demand in the world today is for a sense of security, freedom, and liberty. This could have been written last week. Would you not agree with that? Where in your mind right now do you feel this calling, this demand, this command that you're placing upon yourself in the world that is your world, that is my world, which is the world today, for a sense of security, for a sense of freedom, and for a sense of liberty? He goes, but we must be very certain that as we engage these philosophies he's talking about, and even this particular philosophy, because this philosophy, this faith, this way of life was certainly active and alive and taking place in 1937. He goes, we be certain that we do not swap one image of bondage for another. He goes on to write, I've read a large part of the religious and philosophic history of the world, and I have noticed that almost invariably when the world traded one kind of religion for another, it didn't get a good deal. The Pilgrim Fathers who came to the shores of New England came to worship God in their own way, but the moment they got there, everybody in the colony worshiped God in the way that the strong-minded members of the colony decided was the way to worship God. This, Ernest Holmes writes, was not and is not freedom. Even our newer religions of the last 75 or 100 years, and remember this was in 1937, so there's been almost 100 years since then, if you will. He goes, very frequently we meet people who say that they found the truth. And then, unfortunately, a large majority of them disclose that they merely have found an idea they liked and called it the truth, because they were egotistical, self-conscious, self-righteous people with an attitude of condemnation towards others. When have we heard that of late, right? That, he says, is not the truth. In studying one system of thought after another that has transpired in the last 7,000 years of human history, I have noted how extremely difficult it is for the human mind to conceive liberty without license, without egotism, and we can only give birth to freedom when we have conceived, and I will add to, declared for ourselves liberty. True freedom, he says, true liberty, he says, has something cosmic behind it. If the time has come that modern science has proved that we can move a piece of paper without changing the balance of the entire physical universe, if we've come to a place where we know that the stuff of which our physical bodies are made is the same stuff of which the planets are made, we're there, everyone. Right? If we've come to the place where such a profound unity is maintained that physicists believe that there is no such thing as disunity in the physical world, then we can easily believe there is no such thing. Then we can easily see what the great spiritual leaders of the ages meant when they told us of the greater unity in which all live and move and have our being. I'm going to say that again, that when we can easily see, when we're at that place, which is where we are in the evolution of modern day humanity, that we can easily see that this is true, then we can see what the great spiritual leaders of the ages meant when they told us of the greater unity in which we all live and move and have our being, and that the idea of freedom itself is tied up with the true concept of the unity of good. The unity of good. What he's telling us here is that we are there now. We're there now, where we know intrinsically and innately that we are all not only interconnected, but through that interconnectedness of oneness, that the reflection or the outpicturing or the baseline for that is good. And in this philosophy and in this teaching, a synonym for good is God. So what we're saying is that which we are connected to and as is the divine. Now, I speak here every Sunday morning of how I think that what we're all called to do when we are living out our vision statement of finding personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening is to focus on the spiritual awakening part. And the spiritual awakening that I'm inviting you to open your mind today, to maybe blow your mind like fireworks into, is to a greater way of understanding the interconnectedness of humanity. Of really, as Marianne Williamson was talking about last Monday night, of all sentient beings, not just of humanity, but every being that exists on this planet that has the awareness of the reality that they're aware. That's what a sentient being is. It's one that knows that they know. And we know that that exists within all of us. We know that that exists within our plants, our pets. We all know, we can look into the eyes of that which is aware of itself. He says that it's important for us to know that we are tied, that's that interconnectedness, into an indivisible unity. That we shall have to get back to this unity to find the meaning of freedom. That nothing in any part of this cosmic whole could be considered freedom that would destroy the liberty of some other part of it. In other words, that we're not living as a free being of that divine if there's anything within us on any level whatsoever that is destroying, suppressing, or oppressing anyone else or anything else that is tied to that interconnectedness. And as a being that has become aware, awakened, if you will, to that spiritual truth, that's what we mean by finding personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. It's by knowing that that spiritual truth exists and living from that as a free being, meaning using our mind in a way that is magnifying the oneness that exists already. We indeed then honor the freedom that exists within us. That innately within us there is not restraint, there is not holding back, there is not bondage, but yet we experience that bondage because we forget who we are. We experience that bondage because we forget who we are, not only how we show up in life, but by not holding others accountable when they show up in life in a way that is contrary to expressing freedom in a way that's honoring the divinity of all sentient beings. Yesterday, there were marches that took place across America, and I think it was fantastic that happened. There was rallies that took place, and it was for families belong together. And I believe as awakened beings on this planet today, it is incumbent upon us to take a look at the freedom that we have in life, not just as a spiritual being, but as a being that lives in the United States of America, where not only can rallies and protests take place, but to use our voice in a way that takes care of those that has the inability to use their voice to take care of themselves today. No longer is it okay for us as awakened metaphysicians to stand back and simply pray. It's not enough. It's simply not enough. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with doing that. And it doesn't mean that every prayer, every affirmative prayer, every march, everyone that's thought good ideas, that has not had an effective impact. It has. However, we're called to a higher idea today. We're called to a higher idea today. And it's not from the place politically. It's from the place spiritually. And because we live in a society that is free as human beings, that we can take care of one another, and because we know, and we know that we know, and we know that 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 we are one, then we must show up and do that. We must. At whatever level we can do that. What we must do in that way to express our liberty and our freedom is to give of who we are as spiritual beings. And the best way to do that is not only through the awareness, but through action. It's through living from a place of namaste. It's about living from a place of engaging in the evolution of freedom that exists as human beings that's awakening to their divinity on this planet. And to know that the outpicturing, the manifestation that takes place within humanity as that's unfolding may not necessarily do so at the time that we desire. But it doesn't matter in the context of how we show up. As long as we show up and do our part and give of our soul, of our mind, of our being, of our abundance, of our finances, in every way that we can to participate in humanity finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, then we've done our part. That's how indeed we express our freedom in a way that celebrates the independence that we have not only as spiritual beings, but as beings that live politically free in a world today where we're not enslaved. Jonathan and I were talking earlier this morning about times he's spent in Africa, and I've certainly spent a good deal of time in Africa. And if anyone's ever been to an underdeveloped country or one where you know that the freedom that we have here doesn't exist, you know to not take it for granted as much as we so often do. Today, I encourage you and I invite you to take a moment and take some self-inventory within yourself to ask yourself, what is it that you're taking for granted in regards to your freedom? Not just your spiritual freedom, but the freedom that you have, that you can get up and you can live the life that you do. You can come here and worship, if you will. That's in essence what you're doing. It's not old school worship, but you're worshiping, you're awakening yourself to that divine existence that's within you. You can do that without anyone telling you that you can't do that. You can show up and express yourself and all of that which I talked about as we welcomed you here today, all ethnicities, all origins, all sexual orientation. You get to express yourself in complete freedom without the fear of being oppressed and or enslaved from that. So take a moment and ask yourself, are you paying that back? Not really paying that back. Are you paying that forward in a way that ignites within you a greater awareness and acceptance of who you are as a spiritual being? And in so doing, that's causing within you a personal self-empowerment that radiates out before you and impacts all that is in front of you. And if the answer to that is no, then don't beat yourself up. No self-flagellation. Just think about it, become aware of it, get over it, and get in gear. What we're talking about today is setting yourself free. Not just you as your human name, but you with the uppercase S. In other words, setting you, the spiritual you, the divine you, the authentic you, the wholeness of you, the perfect you, free to live itself out in the world as Ernest Holmes encouraged us to do when he took these collectives of philosophies and religions and put together the science of mind, not meaning that that's the only template for the way to live life as a free being, but using that as one of the templates as the way. As a new thought philosophy, what is incumbent upon us, what we're charged to do, what we're asked to do consistently and every day is to have a new thought. To have a new thought. And to have a new thought, not just about this philosophy and this teaching, but about who you are. Who you are. And what you bring to the world. What do you bring to the world? Well, what you bring to the world, whether you're aware of it or not, is an independent, conscious, awake, alert being of light that has the capacity and the ability to express your peace, your power, your beauty, your joy, your light, your life, your love, your wisdom at all times. And if you forget or act contrary to that, you have within you the ability to stop. Forgive yourself. Critical piece, by the way. Forgive yourself and start anew. Why? Because the principles of life, that which I'm talking about as the laws of life, as we've known from the old school metaphysicians, they're not bound by precedent. In other words, they're not going to hang on to you going, oh crap, I screwed up today, right? No, it's going to respond to a mindset that goes, oh, I'm over that, done that, over that, I'm starting anew right now. Well, what am I starting anew to do? I'm starting anew to do right now, today, to know that I am a free, individual, independent being of the oneness of life, and I am interconnected to all that life is, and for that I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful. And out of that gratitude, What I choose to do is to shine my light to the world. That's why I called it in earlier. Not just to let it beautify me as its reflection, but out of the beautification of me to then shine it to others. To live as a free being. Well, does freedom matter? The answer is yes, it does. It matters greatly. So I'm going to read you something that was written that's addressing a writing by Pope St. John Paul II, who says, freedom consists not in doing what we like in life, but having the right to do what we ought. Hear that again, because it sounds a little judgy, right? You think that Catholic man in that white thing who's supposed to be the empiricals of the Catholics, how dare he judge me? But that's not what he's saying. Freedom consists not in doing what we like, but having the right to do what we ought. This individual who wrote this said, on this Independence Day weekend, is it worth asking ourselves, why do we care about freedom anyway? After we've gone through all the standard replies learned over the years, do we really know what freedom means? Do I know why my freedom is important for me? Do I know how to live freely? Well, what does freedom mean for me, for human beings, for society? It doesn't mean the absence of all restraints or merely spontaneous activity without guidance about the reason why human beings act. A chaotic freedom in society, a disoriented space for the expression of impulses, urges, appetites, and desires, does not lead to a utopia of independent self-realization. Would you guys not agree that's why we're all here? We're here seeking an independent self-realization, a utopia of that. A utopia of that means that that's your state of mind, that you live from a place of self-realizing, realizing that your divine nature is to be independent. Well, what does independent mean? Here's what independent means. It means that you're free from outside control, not depending on another's authority. The study is totally independent of central government is an example of that. Now, one of the things that we teach in this philosophy is indeed that you are independent. And you may question that because you may say, well, the power of the divine has control over me. No, it doesn't. Because you're a being with free will. So you have control over how you use the power. The power has zero control over you. Take that in for a minute, because that's a big idea. It's certainly an idea that's contrary to what most traditional religions teach you. And we're certainly not a traditional religion. We're not even traditional, right? Some ways we are. But I want you to hear that in a new way. That the power that exists within you has no control over you. It simply exists within you and responds in your life by corresponding to that which you place upon it. That's how it works. And so, in other words, you get to experience the benefits of its innate nature, peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, to the degree that you're willing to own that as your reality. And there's another step, to then express it. It does you no good just to know I'm peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, and love everywhere. It's to then give it, to express it, to share it, to honor it within each and every other aspect of life itself. Well, what are some synonyms for independence? And if you're this, just thumbs up for yourself. Free thinking, individualistic, unconventional, shall I name you, right? A maverick, shall I name the three of you, right? Free, liberated, bold, free-spirited, unconstrained, unrestrained, unfettered, untrampled, unhampered, undisciplined. The five of you, right? Okay, 6, we now know. And wild. It's also self-sufficient, self-reliant, self-supportive, self-sustenance, and self-standing. So what we're being told here is to live as free, independent beings. It's important to honor that capacity, those components, those facets of who we are. This article goes on to say that rather are we seeking that utopia to be within us of an independent self-realization, but rather it inevitably results in the emergence, in other words, living from a from freedom that's inherent within us results in the emergence of an oppressive social system, living that way, of a oppressive social system in which the strongest and the most powerful people impose the desires on everyone else. That's living in the opposite of that. Do you think we're living today where we sense that occasionally there is an emergence of an oppressive social system in which the strongest and most powerful people impose their desires on everyone else? We are, and we need to stop it. Right? We need to honor the freedom that exists within those individuals. However, let them be free to be who they are without allowing them to oppress others. That's what we're called to do in the 21st century. And I think we did it in the 1960s too, if I recall, right? What we're being told here is fundamentally we need to be free because as human beings, we know that we're made to live for something, to pursue, to obtain, to embrace, and be embraced by the mysterious reality that calls out and awakens our freedom in the first place. This embrace that we're being told here is what freedom seeks in order to realize itself. This is what freedom wants to do from the moment it springs up from the profundity of the human heart, and therefore this is what freedom ought to do. There's the ought part. The word ought is not opposed to freedom. It does not imply the dehumanizing imposition from the outside of alien rules that reduce and manipulate the person. It expresses, rather, the exigencies of freedom itself. What we're being told there is that as we become awakened to the free nature of who we are then responsible to do what we ought to do. And not ought to do as should do from the perspective of someone outside judging you, but from the perspective that from that awakened nature within you, you know, and you know, and you know that 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 as you engage in expressing your freedom in all of its totality, that you are vibrating, you're creating this resonance field from you in a way that is indeed making a difference on our planet. It is, you are doing in that moment what Gandhi told us to do, is to be the change you desire to see. What we're being told as I started today with this writing from Ernest Holmes, a speech from Ernest Holmes, is that we're at the place today in the evolutionary nature of humanity that it's no longer enough to simply use mental activity for healing. That mental activity for healing is one piece of the puzzle. The next piece of the puzzle is action. It's conscious action. Conscious action. Not action because you walk out of here and go, that frickin' reverend told me I had to go out and act upon social justice, if you will. It's because I'm inviting you, I'm encouraging you to walk out of here today and engage in making a difference on this planet, because what you're doing in that spiritual practice is awakening yourself to your spiritual magnificence. And in so doing, you're stepping into a field of personal self-empowerment that must have an impact on that which you engage in. And from that place, if you then open yourself up to staying in the nature of life itself, that which you give must return to you multiplied abundantly. We talk about it every Sunday morning when we invite you to give of your financial good. We affirm out loud, that which I consciously give heals. And as I do so, it returns to me multiplied abundantly. That's true for us, not just about money. It's about love. It's about kindness. It's about respect. It's about compassion. It's about awakenedness. It's about awareness. It's about every aspect of who we are as divine beings as we give it consciously, purposely, and with intent, and then release it to the universe. It must return to us multiplied abundantly. Why is that the case? Well, that's the case because we live in a universe, we live in a world that is governed by spiritual law. And its nature is to multiply and magnify itself. As you put it out, it must come back to you as more and more. But the key to that, as it comes back to you, is to open yourself up to understand that the opportunity of good, of life, is everywhere. And as it comes back to you, through you and you receive it, then you expand your consciousness to know that you're more and more and more of it. But not really. It's already there. But your experience of it is more and more and more, which then propagates you to awaken yourself to give more of it, and to give more of it, and to give more of it, so that you get it coming back. So on this Independence Day weekend in July 2018, I invite you and I encourage you to open your mind in a new way, to ask yourself, how willing am I to share my independence in a free way that is awakening not only myself, but all of humanity in a way to its spiritual magnificence, that which is multiplied abundantly in front of me is the good that we heard of earlier. Good not just from a financial perspective, but good of multiplying the divinity that exists within all sentient beings. What I know that as you awaken yourself to saying yes today, then you really won't care whether you get barbecue and cake or a margarita or even fireworks. Because you're so secure with who you are as a spiritual beings, baby, you're already on fire. And so take that fire and set it free and live yourself consciously and awake and alert, because you get to benefit from that in life, and so do I. And so in advance, I say thank you for being who you are and who you give to this planet and consciously propagating good today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because we are here today to celebrate also the independence of Jonathan Hawkins. Now, free from travel, but you're not because you're leaving it. But of our country, and I know that I treasure the freedom that I have as a citizen of this country, and I know that you do too. They've put together a musical compilation that will acknowledge that. So, enjoy.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Mine eyes have seen the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Come on, join us, please.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory,